Now it's very important to point out that this database is a standalone database and is not connected in any way to the school attendance system or the board office student system. Anytime we want up-to-date information in this database, we have to go and perform some steps to extract that data and then click on a couple of buttons here to import that data into the database. So each time you use the database, you need to retrieve up-to-date data. Clicking on the Creating Saving Instructions tab, thorough instructions are given here as to how to create the data that we need. The Periods Absent CSV, Student Directory CSV, Parent Mailing Label CSV. When those are created, those new files would then overwrite these 3 files that we see here in our folder. After you've saved them, you would then click on these buttons to import those 3 files. To click on this button, this would import the Periods Absent CSV file. We'll do that now. It says, do you want to import it? Sure enough, and it takes only a few seconds, and that's done. Now we want to import the student directory information. Yes. And the parent mailing labels file. Yes. Done. So each time you use the database, we need to retrieve updated attendance information. Now clicking here on the Creating Saving Instructions tab are thorough instructions on how to create each of the 3 files. Once the files are created, we'd go back here and click on these 3 green buttons labeled Steps 1, 2, and 3 that would then import those 3 data files into the database. So here it says create the consecutive days absent late report. Let's do that. I'll give you the exact instructions on how to do that. So I've opened Report Launcher. I have 3 reports I want to generate, and all of them can be found in different places, but they can all be found under All Reports Listed by Name. So I'm clicking there and I'm going to Consecutive Days Absent Late. Now for the Consecutive Days Absent Late report, the first thing to look at are the start and end dates. During first semester, the dates will just be fine and we'll move on. During second semester, you need to change the start date to the beginning of the first semester, February 1st or whatever it might be. Next, you're going to click on Periods, leave it as absent. You're going to change the total here to 1. Now I know you might want to think, well, I only want 10 or 15 or whatever the case might be, but no, you always want 1, and I'll explain that later. Then you're going to click on Build Report. Now at this point you might get a prompt screen that verifies some dates. Just click OK, and then it will start to build the report. Now once the report displays, it's important to note that it says total periods absent, minimum of 1. Not 10 or 15 or 12 or whatever you might be keying in on at this point in time, but minimum of 1. It's a 53-page report, and what it displays are all the students' absences this semester for each class that that student had been registered in at any point in time. We want to save all of this data. We're going to go to File, Print, Save As, CSV. Make sure it says Include Headings. We do want that. Click OK, and what it's going to do is go back to the previous folder that you saved anything into. If it's your first time, you need to browse to the 2010-11 attendance folder or wherever these files are stored. This one is the Periods Absent report, so we want to save it as Periods Absent. By default, it says Untitled here in the file name line. We want to just, to save having to actually type the file name Periods Absent, we just click once on it, and then Periods Absent appears here in the file name. We click Save. Do we want to overwrite it? Yes, we do. And we can cancel. Now, one other thing I want you to do at this point in time is actually print 1 page from this. File, Print, and just type 1 here, and actually print that to paper and hang on to it. What I want you to do is, once we have imported this data into the database, I want you to verify that the information that we see here on this report is the data that we actually got into the database. It's very important that that step happens properly, and that's one way that you can verify that you performed the steps properly and the data has been imported into the database properly. then you can cancel the preview. So the next report is the student directory report. Again, we can find it under all reports listed by name. Student directory. We double click on that, click on build report, and then that will take a few minutes to generate. So once the student directory report displays, in this case a 189-page report, we want to save the data from this report. So we're going to go to File, Print. The print dialog box will appear. Save as, CSV. Yes, the include headings checkbox is checked. OK. Now the nice thing here is it'll go back to the same folder that you just saved to, in this case the 2010-11 attendance folder, and the CSV files are displayed. It'll say untitled here in the file name. We have to know that we want this saved as student directory, so we just click once on this, which will then move that file name down here. We're going to click Save. Do we want to overwrite? Yes, we do. And our data has been saved, and we can now cancel out. Now the last report I need is the parent mailing labels report. So we'll find that again here under All Reports, Parent Mailing Labels. I'm going to accept the criteria given, Active, All, click OK. It'll think for just a minute. Then we can click on Build Report, and that'll take a moment or so. The parent mailing label report will display, and then I want to go again, File, Print. The print dialog box will appear. The parent mailing label report will appear, and again we want to save this data. So again we go File, Print, and again Save As, click on CSV, OK, and again it will go back to that same folder. That's where we want to be. Untitled, click here, becomes parent mailing labels. Save. Do we want to overwrite? Yes. And we're done. We can cancel out of this. So once we've performed step 1, 2, and 3 here, created those 3 files, overwritten the parent mailing labels, periods absent, and student directory files with the newer up-to-date data, we go back to the main tab and import the periods absent file. We'll do that now. Click here. Do you want to import periods absent file? Yes, I do. It takes only a few seconds. Done. Student directory information, same. And the parent mailing labels data. Yes. Done. So now we have the up-to-date information into this database. So we've generated the 3 reports, extracted the data, saved it, overwritten the previous periods absent, student directory, and parent mailing labels CSV files. Then you've clicked here and imported the 3 files, and the data should be in the database properly. So let's make sure it is. We'll click here on periods absent report, sorted by name. Now I want you to take that one page that I asked you to print earlier from the periods absent report and just verify that the information on that report did get imported into the database properly by checking some students and the number of absences from each course and making sure that it matches.